Management and monitoring of the testing site by examiners and coordinators, so this is where you all come into play. Student failure to follow directions, prohibited devices, detailed slides for local blue. Okay, we're gonna get to this in a second. All right, managing security breaches. Here is the chain of command. So it starts with you, okay? Then you have the school test coordinator, which is me. So if you suspect something, you feel uneasy about something, just call me, okay? Don't second guess anything. Principal, system test coordinator, and if they have to call the state, they will.
So I'll add something right here. If you're in the middle of testing and something happens and you're questioning yourself, she's going to talk about system in the presentation a little bit later, but follow your protocols to getting someone down to you. You're also going to have available your walkies. We'll come down, let us know what's going on, and we can provide guidance. Time is of the essence. It may be the difference between an irregularity and invalidation. Irregularity is the student still gets a score. If it's invalidated, there's no score, and we got a bigger problem on our hands. So probably better to tell on ourselves up front, get the guidance rather than hold on to it and then it turn into something different because we could have done something differently on the front end.
All right. Monitor, that means to circulate and check. They keep reiterating this. Teachers must monitor students by circulating and checking to prevent cheating, use of calculators, going ahead, looking back. Teachers should not use their cell phones, text, or work at their computers. You're not sending any emails, you're not reading, you're just monitoring and walking around, okay? And any incident worth noting should be recorded by the teacher in the incidents log. We're going to go over that in a minute. I'll show you what it looks like, the same as it has been in the last few years. We're going to collect and count every day, multiple times, and you have to return your materials daily to me, and I have to lock them up daily. Security, maintain security. All examiners who administer a state assessment must hold a valid certificate. Use of any uncertified examiner will result in invalidation, not irregularity, invalidation. Everyone involved in the testing process must be properly trained and informed of your roles and responsibilities for test security. Attendance must be mandatory and well documented. Untrained examiners must not be allowed to test. Students and teachers need to know the testing protocols and ramifications of not following the procedures. Ms. Lewis has to be made aware of any issues involving testing or security. Violations may result in invalidation of the test or referral to the PSC, okay, for disciplinary actions against the examiner. Security, examiner training, documentation of attendees, we've got that. Ensure examiners have an opportunity to review the examiner manual prior to the testing date. Examiners should be clear on logical procedures in place for security of materials. All right, you've seen these all over, right? The sign in, sign out sheet. Make sure you've already signed in, and make sure when you leave, you also sign out, okay, on the sign out sheet. Did it jump ahead? Okay. All right, security. Student test booklets and online test tickets kept in a secure location. Test materials must not be removed from the secure storage location for reasons other than preparation of materials, okay? So every time I go into that testing closet, I have to sign the stuff out. I have to document that I went in there and unlocked the door, and then I have to document what time I went out, okay? It's pretty intense. All right, test materials must not be removed. We just went over that. Student test booklets must remain in their shrink-wrap packages as late as possible to avoid security concerns. Distribute testing materials as close to the actual testing time as possible. We're going to go over that schedule in a minute. Test materials should only be issued to persons who have been carefully advised of their responsibilities. Only staff members who have been trained should handle the materials. If you're a test examiner, the bucket needs to follow you everywhere. Okay, don't let it out of your sight. Don't leave it on the counter so you can go to the restroom. It needs to stay with you, okay? All persons receiving testing materials must sign a checkout sheet, which I will have for you every day when you come see me. All testing materials issued to persons administering tests must be counted carefully. If there's a problem, you have to let me know. For some reason, we counted before you left my room, and you get to your room and you miscounted, you need to let me know immediately. Whether there are more or less books. Did it skip ahead again?
Yeah.
Is this where we were? Yes. Keep a record of all students tested for each test administration. So you guys are going to get a signature log in your test book boxes every day. Students must write their name on the cover of their test booklet and on any scratch paper. That answers your question. Please follow all instructions in the test manuals exactly. Don't add anything, delete anything from the directions in the test manual. This violates standardized testing conditions. Collected and returned immediately after the testing sessions. As soon as your kids are done testing, we're going to have lots of people around the building to come and watch your class for you. As soon as they're done, make a beeline to me. Okay, don't stop and chit chat with folks along the way. Bring that bucket to me. Test tickets and use scratch paper, secure testing materials. Examiners are responsible for turning in the test tickets and use scratch paper. For example, if an examiner is administering tests multiple times during the day, which we're trying to avoid, the collection, checking in of secure materials should occur multiple times during that day. Okay, so I'm not going to give you everything you need at once if you're doing 2 separate sessions during a day. You're going to have to check one in and then out, and then again for the next test box. Here's an example of what a classroom roster will look like that your students will have to sign at the end of each testing day. Cell phones are not permitted to be used. They can't even be in the testing environment, okay? So make sure you talk to your kids about that. Announcements must be made prior to testing about their devices, and they're not to be used or allowed in the testing environment. The possession or improper use of such devices during testing may result in disciplinary action in accordance with the system's student code of conduct and or test invalidation. There's script in your examiner's manual regarding this topic, so just make sure you read it word for word to them. Okay, yes, Ms. Reynolds.
Previously, we've just collected their cell phones and kept them in the testing box. So if they're not allowed in the environment, what would you like us to do with them?
We used to put their book bags in the hallway, just to keep them out, but
One of my 3rd graders has a phone.
I'm sure the 5th graders probably have them.
Well, we signed them out last year. We had a
Made the
sign out sheet.
But we
You
had to
gave them
return them
cell
all and
phones,
put them in
you
the
collected
cloud.
them, they signed it out, and then they got them back.
There still is
But
that.
she's saying that so that it's not in the classroom. Did you leave them in the class or you set them outside in a book bag?
No, I just left them on the file.
The school that I was at last year, they would, each classroom teacher would collect the, whatever room they were proctoring and take them to the office where we would pick up our test materials so they were outside.
Yeah, just
And you can do that
And
too.
that way it's in a secure area.
I was gonna say, if you're not gonna
Collect
have the
them,
issue
put
with
the
the
name.
hallway, probably not a good idea.
Put the name on it in the bag, and you can send your proctor up or the hall monitor, and Ms. Stansfield will keep it. Can you, did you already go through the sheet where the students sign in every day? So that sheet, it has the student signature on it?
Yeah, that's not the same one with the initials. The one you're talking about.
Yeah, but what I wanted to stress is that the teachers put the first round names, because when we have each day,
Oh, right.
so that we be sure we don't miss anyone.
Right.
All the kids' names are pre-written on the sheet.
So we write on that, they don't.
This is where their
Teachers
names
write it,
are.
and then they come and sign to say that I took the test.
Right, so you write their names here, unless I'm able to do that for you, I'll try. If not, make sure you write their names here first and last, and make sure they sign their names here first and last. The form is the same for all of them, it's the A1, okay? And then the following days, they can initial. And you'll have all that in your box. Here's an example of an initial column. Okay, cell phones. We good on cell phones? And electronic, can they use calculators?
No.
If for some reason you have a kid and you find a cell phone, stop testing that student, remove a student from the testing session, and then notify me immediately. Okay, so let's just avoid that. Just be very clear with them. You cannot have a phone. If you have it, give it to me. We'll get it back to you. Yes.
Leave it at home. Not to be like redundant.
That's a
or
great
anything.
idea.
I mean, don't bring your phones that day.
I think that's an awesome idea.
Not to be redundant or anything,
Sometimes
like
have
watches.
watches.
Like, or I don't know if they, any of them have smart watches.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
Have watches, same thing, they should take them off.
That's a good point, yeah, because that, they might have calculators. It's just not
I'm
worth
just saying,
it.
like,
It says it in the directions too.
It
like,
does, electronic devices, and it mentions
covers
specifically.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was this one that the other 18? Because I've always been told that nobody stops tests. Like, you don't even stop tests. We have to get guidance for them to tell
Yeah,
us.
because I merged a lot. So let's make a note of that, because Ms. Lewis is thinking that we cannot stop testing. But I'll get back to you on that. I don't know what slide this is, but just cell phones. Right, just the students. Alright, you have this should be in your folder, but you'll have this in your testing booklet every day too. Students may take stretch breaks in between sections, okay, so like ELA section 2, ELA section 3, they can take a stretch break. As a general rule, a student who leaves the room during section 1 may not complete section 1. They may resume testing in section 2 once it starts. An exception relative to a restroom emergency is explained in the restroom break guidance. So the kid really needs to go to the restroom, they can go to the restroom, okay? You will have to document it. So you'll have an incidents log where you can document anything that you're worried about or unsure about. But the restroom will be included in that, okay? Because if they have a certain amount of time to test, you have to take out the time where they were in the restroom to document the time they leave. And we'll have restroom monitors in the hallways. We'll talk about that in a minute. That can guide them, lead them to the restroom, okay? Because they can't go on their own. Yep.
So, if they leave, you said you take out that time.
Correct. Yes. Yes, Ms. Kraft asked, do you give them that time back? Yes, you give them that time back. So if they take 5 minutes in the restroom, they get 5 more minutes at the end if they need it, okay? Reporting and coding irregularities. Events and circumstances or departures from standardized testing procedures are irregularities. They may impact the student performance. They're reported and student scores are flagged simply to say there is something different about the conditions from which the score was obtained. Use caution interpreting the scores. Here are some examples: materials being distributed inappropriately, directions not being followed, improper monitoring or test administration, or of a student going ahead or going back. But in your directions that you read to them, it'll tell them very explicitly, you cannot go ahead, and you cannot go back to previous sections, but you still have to monitor them. Reporting irregularities and invalidations. All right, some examples of irregularities. You give them the wrong version of the test, which is not going to happen to us. Wrong accommodations, cheating, students working in the wrong section, testing procedures not being followed, missing test materials, or breach of test security, which we went through. Some irregularities are so serious that they result in invalidation. This is what Ms. Lewis was talking about. Content being disclosed, coached, or distributed, cheating, test administrator altering responses during or after testing. Participation and validation. Federal regulations stipulate that when inappropriate accommodations are used, students may not be considered participants in accountability determinations. In addition to irregularities and validations, systems will be required to code participation and validations for students who receive a conditional accommodation. We'll go over that with the accommodation folks. In the EOG, a potential invalidation occurs when a student receives inappropriately conditional accommodations of oral reading passages and or use of a calculator. So we have to be very careful that we give the student their accommodations. All right, examples of irregularities: cheating, using a prohibited device, doing this during testing administration.